Welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. But today, right before we get started here, we have a special announcement because just next week, just in a few days, you guys are going to be able to come see us and hang out with us at the 8% conference in Dallas, Texas, starting on the 27th. So we're going to be excited about that. We're going to have a full Life Insurance Academy booth set up. And we want to invite you guys to come hang out with us, to come talk to us and just let us know what's going on, what you like, what you don't like, and we'll be able to interact with each other and see what's coming up. And with that, we actually have some breakout sessions.
Yeah, guys, we are excited for our breakouts. We are going to walk through our final expense presentation that's sold tons of premium. And then we are also doing an interactive podcast recording. We are super excited about this. We want to see you guys in there, and we'll even have a few of you hop on there. So we can't wait to see you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time we're going to actually do a podcast in a full room of people, and we're going to have a floating mic going around. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be completely off the cuff. I don't even know what topic we're going to talk about. Maybe we'll let you guys choose the topic. But for this 8% conference, Chris knows a guy, right?
We know a guy. He's giving us a deal, and you can get the tickets that we have at lifeinsuranceacademy.org/tickets, lifeinsuranceacademy.org/tickets. And guys, we even have fire tickets. I don't think you can get them anywhere else.
No, they are sold out everywhere. I believe we have 6 of those left. We have very limited number of diamond tickets left. We also have some premier tickets left. I think we're under 10 left on that. And then we have the VIP tickets. And I promise you, since we do know a guy, these are the best prices you're going to see out there. And we just want to do that to our LIA audience, and we wanted to make them available. And we're happy, and we're going to see you guys there soon.
All right, let's jump in the podcast.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. You are here again with Zach and Chris. Roger's going to be back soon. He climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. He has some sick street cred now.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they had those water slides on the way down.
I guess so. Yeah, that took 8 days to go up and 30 seconds to come back down. But yes, he survived. He's coming back, and I think he'll be on the next podcast. But for now, it is us, and we are tag teaming again.
That's right.
You got to put your hand up.
Man, come on, man.
That's what tag team, like the reach for the tag team
Tag
wrestling.
teams back again.
That's right. Yes. So today's topic, we are talking about how to get out of a slump. How to get out of a slump. And Zach, you
just brought the energy so far down.
Well, I think it feels that way, doesn't it? Isn't that how it feels?
It just got, I think Adam dimmed the lights. He lowered the mics.
Hey, Mrs. Jones.
That might be how some of the agents are feeling right now in the car listening to this.
That's the noise. I love that noise. Yeah. Just before they go knock on the door. And we brought the energy down. Just say the word slump in an energetic way. It's not possible.
You don't really know why you filled out this card, did you?
Yeah. You probably aren't interested.
But this is a very necessary topic. I mean, this series we've been going on lately, it's almost like True Talk, right?
It is.
This is real stuff that
we keep
real
it
agents,
real here, Zach.
Always.
Keep it 100. That's what the kids say.
Always 100.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. But in order to truly understand how to pull somebody out of the slump, it's extremely important to diagnose why are they in the slump.
So this is different than when we started this. Okay, so this was the topic, but I like what you just said. It was how to get out of a slump, and then you said how to pull somebody out of a slump. So maybe that's part of this.
Well, there's a management aspect to it as well.
Yes, yeah. That I wasn't considering that when I picked this topic.
I don't know. Maybe there's probably 1 or 2 or 10 agents out there in the country that can pull themselves out of a slump, but usually association is one of the biggest keys to helping somebody get out of their own way or get out of a slump, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah, that's good.
But there's multiple different types of slumps, right? You can be in a production slump. You can be in, you could come off a vacation that may be a trip you've earned with a carrier, or been really well and everything's been rolling good. You go on vacation, you sit on the beach for a week or two. Like you don't deserve a slump. You just you had a major achievement, right?
Right.
Why do you deserve a slump? You know?
Yeah.
But that's a little bit different how to pull yourself out of that. Also coming off being sick, like your energy is different. I mean, there's so many different ways you can get into a slump, but it's very similar to pull somebody out or pull yourself out.
Right. Well, as you're saying that, here, let's start with something that's true.
I don't want you to lie to me.
Oh, so many jokes just ran through my head. It's like Doctor Strange, like looking at them all. But
we just witnessed Chris put brakes on his words. That has never happened.
That's a miracle.
That
right
doesn't
there.
happen off the podcast, by the way.
Right. It doesn't happen off the podcast. Yeah, the filter kicked in. Zach, have you ever been in a slump?
Oh, many times.
Okay. Monster producer, been in a slump many times. So here's the true thing. Everybody goes in a slump.
Absolutely.
Everybody has a slump. It's going to happen. So I think that is one key piece in understanding how to get out of a slump is to know it's going to happen.
Yep.
It's going to happen. And I'll tell you when it typically happened for me is when I called my buddies and I said, I just had 13 applications in a row and I can't get a no. That moment when you feel like you are on top of the world, bam, bam, that's when it would happen.
Man, yes, it does. It's almost the same relationship. And if you know, if it didn't happen for you, it probably happened with somebody you know or somebody in your organization. But when you very first move into the life insurance industry, pending you're not completely alone and you're in a halfway decent system, you're usually coming out on fire.
Mm-hmm.
You're usually rolling out. You're extremely successful. You're hitting a lot of huge numbers in your first month or the first 2 or 3 months. And why do you think that is? Chris, why is that? You've been in the business long enough.
Because you are running with enthusiasm and optimism and belief. Like it's at all-time highs.
Absolutely. Now, what happens, and we didn't pre-script this, but what happens when month 3, 4, 5 come around?
You get a visit by a certain fairy, and it's the chargeback fairy.
The chargeback fairy.
That's right.
But you
and
also
she takes money out of your account.
She does.
Out from under your pillow.
Yeah. And the difference there is your mindset starts to shift. And the difference between moving through your first 3 months to your second set of 3 months is, like you said, your enthusiasm. All of that is excitement. You wanted to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. But your willingness to learn and implement what you're learning. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Your awareness is really high.
Very, very much so. And you're being plugged into a system that has history of success on launching agents and producing successful agents. Most of the time that you start hitting that second set of 3 months slump, which is really the first slump that you hit in this business, is because you start to relax slightly. Your activity starts to slow down a little bit because you got a few apps under your belt. Or
I'll tell you, I think that is key, man, because when you're getting a lot of yeses, mm-hmm. then you may feel like you don't have to do as many sits.
You're looking for the path of least resistance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm making this money. How can I make this money with less work and less effort and less focus? Which that's okay to do if you're 3-4 years into it, but not 3-4 months into it. So that's typically your first slump that you feel, right? The second major slump, as agents feel, is the sophomore slump, right after your first year in the business. First year in the business, you reevaluate yourself, or at least I did. Can I do this business? Yes. Was I successful? Ish. I was all right. I was an average agent. But can I reapply all of that knowledge and all of that effort? And if I hit reset on year 1, what would I be able to accomplish in year 2? But that should be the attitude. It should be the enthusiasm that you're running for. But what tends to happen is right after your first year, you start again taking your foot off the gas slightly. Now you start to, and there's 2 ways you can do it, because yes, you do have experience. Yes, you did get better at what you're doing. So the natural thought is, okay, this is getting easier. I should be making a lot more money, right? Because it's all this ratio of time and money. I should be making a lot more money with now my experience and my skill set because I've leveled up slightly being in this business and surviving for the first year. But what happens is the agents take that experience and that knowledge and that little bit of expertise they gain in year one, and instead of applying the same amount of effort and enthusiasm and time in the business and making a ton more money, they use that experience and then they work less and they start taking shortcuts and finding these paths of least resistance. And the amount of pure hours in the field drastically goes down and they end up making generally around the same amount of money.
And if you look at the numbers, do you feel like their closing percentages are any different, or do you feel like that's a perception on their side?
Absolutely. I think they're better at closing.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting with a lot less people to close.
Right. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I think the sophomore thing comes with, and I know this, like you feel like you know something now.
Oh, when you're a year in this business, you'll see them. People walk around,
Yeah.
Man, they think that they've been in this business 10 years, right?
Yes.
Like they've done climbed the whole mountain in one day instead of 8. Like they just feel that sense of confidence because they don't really understand the ebbs and flows of this business, both in that first year or so.
So two key areas it sounds like to pay attention to is when you're on a run. I'll say 3. Okay, when you're on a run, when you have extended time off, that's the other one. When you come back,
yeah,
and your sophomore.
Yeah.
month.
So I mentioned the second set of 3 months in the business. So your second quarter in the business is usually your first slump. Right after your first year, so that's beginning of that second year, that sophomore slump, and then beyond that is where anybody and everybody experiences maybe 1 to 2 slumps a year. And this is what we're talking about today, really focusing on. I want to identify those, but really focusing on the extended time off, which is huge, being whether that's vacation, whether that's being sick, or just slimply.
Dude,
yeah.
that's how you have a slump. Slimply.
That's all you got to do. You just slide right out of it.
There you
You're
go.
good. But not being able to close or conversions, and what's that all tied to?
Right. And you have, I think, some good ideas in regards to how to get out of the slump. I would say the very first part is it's kind of tied to our last episode, and that's your belief and your attitude, and
Yep.
doing, a checkup from the neck up, as Zig Ziglar would say.
I like that. Say that with some attitude.
You got to do a checkup from the neck up. Girl, you got to throw a girl
Oh
in there.
my
I think. Oh no, he did.
That's-
Matter of fact, last episode, you said you watch All American,
Yeah.
that show. My son watches that, and the whole time I say, "Oh no, he didn't," and it drives him crazy.
I can imagine.
So if you're watching All American, I just ruined it for you. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I definitely, man, you just completely threw me off there.
I have no idea what we're talking about now.
No, but back to the slumps. It happens, and you're right, because honestly, if you have that checkup from the neck up, and if you listen to our last episode,
That's
which
what
was
it
all
was.
about cause and mindset, that's really the preventative maintenance
Yes.
that you need. Because when you're doing that, you're doing those regular check-ins, just like oil changes on the car. You're not going to deal with engine failure, right? You have to do those things, and that can prevent them from happening. They will start to happen a little bit, no matter who you are, how long you've been in the business. But that will prevent most of it, and it will make it easier for you to come out of.
Let me tell you something. There's a great book. I highly recommend it. Cybernetics. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. Cybernetics. Okay.
Is there a picture of you on the inside cover?
Yes, there is. No, but it's talking about your attitude, mindset, and how that affects the way you live. And there's this interesting section in it where he talks about your mind. Your brain's up here, but your mind is the thoughts that you're projecting outward, and how you present yourself in front of other people, and just even your tone and your body language, and how that's carried into these environments, and these environments are affected by it. Like, people see you and experience your mind before you ever say a word. It's nuts. And so if you are,
You start sounding like Tony Robbins.
I'm trying to get my voice more gravelly, but so if you are Debbie Downer and you're having a moment and you haven't set that aside, or all you're thinking about is your numbers and how they haven't been great, you didn't close one of the last 8 sits, and that's affecting you going into that, Mrs. Jones will feel that. They will feel it at the door. They will see you walking up, and they're like, I don't want to talk to that guy. He's a tax collector or a census dude, something like that.
Jeez. So for me, I kind of created this ladder theory in my mind, right? And I've actually taught this to a lot of agents, and this is kind of how I've
1999 right here.
I've figured out, like, this is the cause of most of my slumps personally, and this is exactly how I got out of every single one of them. And the ladder theory is, if you imagine a big stepping ladder, right? Like Chutes and Ladders. You know the game Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah.
So you get the big ladder leaning, and you're climbing up them steps. The bottom step is the very fundamentals, that you getting rolling, that's doing everything the proper way, exactly the way you're supposed to do it, using the presentation flip chart, using the tie downs, not skipping the time and building trust in the home, really going through the process exactly the way you should.
Okay.
The next step, naturally, you're going to gain experience. You're going to get a little swagger. You're going to start getting a little bit better, and you're going to start to, I can trim this up, or I'm naturally better at, I could take a little less time building trust because I'm naturally a little bit better at this. So as you're going up the ladder, your confidence is getting higher. It's becoming easier. Now, like this, Chris, I can close some sales without using the presentation. Mm-hmm. You start to get off track a little bit.
Yeah.
But your confidence, your mind, your energy, what you're talking about, because you have gotten better, that keeps propelling you, and you're selling more and you're selling more, and you're continuing to do it, and you're kind of just slightly veering. And then once you get to that top of that ladder, what happens is, boom, you hit one of them slides, right? You fall all the way down to the bottom. You go all the way down to the bottom. And it feels like just last week, I sold everybody I sit with. Just like you said, 13 people in a row, and I wrote applications on everybody. The only way I don't sell is if I go lay down and close my eyes, because people are begging me for this insurance. Right after that, always before a slump happens, you have some of the best weeks writing that you've had in the business. And you don't know why, because once that slump happens and all of a sudden you fall off that ladder, what's the only way to get back on that ladder and get to the top?
Fundamentals.
One step at a time. You got to start back at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. The issue with most agents is they think, oh, well, I just want to start back up the top and do exactly what I was doing a week ago or 2 weeks ago because I was selling so much. But you done the biggest thing that you lost, and a lot of times you don't know it, is your confidence. It's the energy, it's the aura, it's the perception you're putting on in that home or through that phone. That is what is selling most of that for you. But once you have that slump, that is the first thing that's wiped away.
Yeah. And here's the thing to pay attention to in regards to slump. It's kind of it kind of feels like you're getting caught in the undertow a little bit, because it's disorienting. Mm-hmm. Like, you're like, wait a second. Okay. Well, I didn't get that last one. Wait a second. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. What's happening? Oh, I know what it is. It's the leads, right? It's the leads, or
it's the area.
This industry doesn't work anymore. Like, the stuff I hear, I've had agents call and they'll say, hey, I need you to look at my numbers from last year because I was writing a whole lot more business. And it's all how you feel about this.
What was the result of that?
It was the same numbers. They were the same exact numbers each year. And, but your perception is off, mm-hmm. because you're caught in the wake of this undertow of the slump. And the thing I like that you're talking about, and it's so important, is it's what you do, mm-hmm. and you are in control, and you are in charge of this.
It's not only the fundamentals, Chris, but it's the mindset. That's the first thing that needs to be checked, because if your mind isn't right, if your cause, just like we talked about in the last episode, if that's not set and clear for you, the only thing you're trying to do is sell a policy or get a commission. That commission breath is going to stink up the whole place. You ain't going to get nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when you redefine what you're doing and what your purpose, and re-clarify your goals, and even it's just rereading them or checking them out, but when you have that cause and then you get back on that first level of that ladder, to where you're doing the fundamentals. And I tell agents this all the time. Well, how do I get out of this? I'm stuck. What do I need to do? I said, okay, first off, I don't care if you sell another policy the rest of the week or today. It doesn't matter. I'm not worried about that one bit. It's not what I want you to do. The only thing I want you to do is fix your mind. We're going to calm down. We're going to figure out what we want. We're going to go through that process. Once we're okay to do that, move forward mentally, all I want is, just have the best door knock you've ever had in your life or the best phone call you've ever had in your life.
Just one.
Just one. Just the initial portion. And then once you do that, I want you to actually listen in that trust building phase more than you've ever listened. I want you to really try to connect. I want you to really, truly bond with them. If they buy an app or not, I want them to be close enough that you could be Facebook friends now, that they would invite you over for dinner. That's the connection I want you to establish. And then after you do that, I just want you to take your time and relax and actually move through the presentation of why you're there and answer all questions and make sure they don't have any questions and just educate them on all the different types and then how it would best provide for their family. If you just do the best presentation, I don't care if you sell it or not. I really don't. Just do the best one. Just do one, and at the end of it, just do one sit. Just the best sit you've ever done. Just do one. I don't care if you don't do any the rest of the week. Just do the next one, the best one you've ever done. And the results of that, typically, I got an app. Great. Now let's just do one more. Who cares? I don't care if you I just want you to get 5 more friends this week, Yeah. I don't care about anything else. And it's just focusing on the details instead of trying to get an app, because it's so easy. And I think these slumps begin, Chris, when they say, I'm going to write 15,000 next week or 10,000 or 20,000 or 30, whatever it is. I'm going to write a number instead of helping that individual families. You look at your leads as a batch of 30 instead of 30 or one opportunity 30 times in a row. It's just the perspective of it. Yeah. And that's always helped me. And that's the advice I usually give to agents, to just focus on the fundamentals, but master each step of the sales process one at a time and do the best in each category. And you can't help but to pull yourself out of that.
Another part of this, and this has been an important piece in this conversation, is how emotion driven the sales process is. Like you are your own boss. You're a 1099. You're out there doing your thing, and you can feel a certain way about it because the numbers appear to be saying something. But like we said earlier, an agent will call and say, "What are my numbers compared to last year?" And they're the same. The one thing that really reveals the truth is data, is numbers. And going back to these fundamentals, it's important to have the fundamentals of sales. But I know a lot of times when you're talking to agents and you're course correcting them, that you have an activity sheet or something that you ask them to keep track of. Is that right?
Absolutely. The activity sheet is something that we implemented years back, and what it does is it allows us to diagnose a true problem. And I'll say, and what I mean by a true problem is like you said, a lot of times initially, if somebody's going through a slump, all you're going to hear, if you're a manager, if you're an upline, or if you're just a friend in the business that's a running buddy or something, it's the leads. It's the area. As some of the other ones you said, it could be this, or it could be that, or it's because it's snowing this week. It's because it's raining, or it's always this county.
No one's ever home.
No one's ever home, and they've never lived there in their entire life. It's all these different things, but it's never you as the agent. It's never them as the agent. It's never. They're not taking responsibility and saying, "Could it possibly be me?" Right? And the activity sheet, as long as you're honest with it, it will reveal what the issue is. It will tell you, either yourself or a partner or a friend that is looking at this, it will tell them exactly what the true story is. If it's an activity issue, if it's an attitude issue, if it's you're getting a ton of sits with families, but you're not closing at all. Okay, so then it's probably some type of trust issue inside of the home. Yeah. It's probably some type of presentation issue. So that lets me know that agent probably isn't very present mentally when they're going through that. So that could be from some drama or stress in their own life. So maybe the issue is figuring that stuff out before we reevaluating and starting to fix that presentation. So the numbers on the activity sheet will literally, if you fill it all out and you're honest with yourself, it will reveal the problem to you immediately to make those adjustments. And I think, and I want to hear from you, Chris, because, I had the opportunity to ride with you before. We've ridden together a few times. It was a lot of fun, actually.
We had a good time.
But one thing that you're unbelievable at, and I want to kind of see how you handle this, is your whole approach in the home, your mental attitude and your energy, your aura seems to always be consistent. I don't think I've ever seen you or heard of you moving into a home with not being like in a slump. Like, when have you had a slump?
Oh, I have slumps just like everybody, but most of it, it comes down to activity based, exactly what you said with the sophomore thing. When I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, I've had this many sales, exactly based on coming off a high and then taking shortcuts on the activity. That's the truth, I think as far as in the home, like it's in my nature to be relational. So that's the easier part of it, right? So like if my pendulum would tip somewhere, it would be taking shortcuts on the sales process and getting in the friend zone versus, paying attention to need and dialing in then what the client needs and serving the client. That's just the truth. And I think a lot of agents can end up in that same spot. But
so how do you actually correct that? Because I think that you bring up a great point. That is a huge problem for some agents that are very relational. And when you can identify that maybe I'm being in the friend zone, or they love me to death, man, they fed me dinner, but I still didn't get the app. What corrections do you make, or how do you make that correction?
Well, for me, I've always valued association. I always valued being able to have conversations with people and saying, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. And I think, having enough people in this business to be able to turn me in the right direction and say, hey, you're in the friend zone. It allowed me to have these same conversations with agents. I had an agent who would say, man, they always tell me they want to buy from me, and at some point I just would say, at some point you're going to get hungry enough to make an adjustment, because that's what it was for me, like I knew what needed to be done when I had my conversations with mentor, with Roger and coaching and all this stuff, and saying, okay, I'm getting in the friend zone. And I had to be honest with myself. I just did. I will tell you, as a relational person, it was more comfortable for me to be in a sit than to go knock on another door. And I think there are probably a lot of agents who would say that too,
I think there's a lot of agents it's more comfortable for them to sit in their car than to go knock on another door.
That's very true.
Being honest.
That's very true.
I'll tell you, momentum is huge in this, because, to be honest, me or you, none of us are experts at pulling out of slumps. We don't want to be, because that means we're always getting into them, right? One of the biggest ways that I prevent that is to never break my momentum. Never break. And one of the hardest things that sometimes you can't prevent is going on vacations or taking a little time off. Right. This is a hard one.
And if you've earned it, do it.
By all means, you need that reset, because I wouldn't advise people to work 28 days in a row, right? You just don't. You need the mental reset so you can refresh. But I always had this 3-week theory in any type of vacations, and it, for me, and about any agent that I've talked to about it, it's been almost exact. But whenever you break momentum, because when you have momentum, you ride with Big Mo in the car, you know it. When Big Mo's in the car, you know it. Yeah. It's like you wake up on Monday morning, it doesn't matter. You're hitting 5, 6, 10,000 a week, week in, week out. It's clockwork. It's easy. You're almost just daydreaming through the motions, and you're hitting these numbers. And then you go on vacation, you go on a trip, you do a family reunion. God forbid you get COVID for 2 weeks. Something happens, and then you come out and it feels like you don't even know what you're doing. You can't even tie your shoes straight, right? There is a little rust there, but my theory is it takes 3 weeks to get your momentum back. Now, week 1, you will bust your tail and do everything you can. You will have amazing numbers. You'll have a positive attitude. You will work everything you can, and you'll struggle, and you'll probably write, you can grind out about $2,000 to $3,000. Okay. Now, week 2 comes around. You're like, okay, you bust your tail.
Same effort.
Exactly everything. Now, you have to, because
Right.
that doesn't change. You're giving it everything you got. You're doing the best you can. Boom, you bust out another $2,000 to $3,000. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Now, week 3 goes around, and as long as you don't get discouraged and you bust your tail and you do everything exactly the same, then you're going to write probably double. You're going to double that production. And the only reason is because week 1 effort always shows up 3 weeks later. Week 2 effort is going to show up in week 5, 3 weeks later. It's always a 3-week lag. So whenever you have momentum and you have a good week now, it's because you've been busting your tail 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it takes time for your momentum to actually catch up to you.
That's like a flywheel. You're cranking on that thing, just trying to pump out the water.
And I swear by it. I swear by it. The one thing you can't do is in week 2, get discouraged and then change your activity or lower it or go home early.
I do have something too, in regards to personal slumps. I didn't have the luxury of being in slumps a lot of times because I had people in my car all the time. And that's another big piece.
A cheat code.
That is a cheat code, man. Like for me, it was, if somebody's watching, then I'm not just fighting for myself, I'm fighting for other people as well. So, today's episode, I hope this was helpful for you guys. It's how to get out of a slump. Or if you are listening to this with manager ears, or leadership ears, then it's how to help other people get out of a slump. Pay attention to some specific areas. The second quarter of your first year, the sophomore slump, and then extended time off. Pay attention to those. But keep track of your numbers. Have a good attitude. Work that 3-week system. Pay attention to following the fundamentals, and you guys will make it happen. We believe in you. You want to take us out?
Do I want to take us out?
Yeah, take us out.
We'll catch you again on another Life Insurance Academy podcast. So thanks for listening. If you want that activity sheet, we have it available on our website. So come check us out.